Hi everyone, this is just going to be a really quick one. It's about basic server and PC troubleshooting, maintenance, things like that. Um, there's tons of resources on the net for that. Also, tons of people have different ideas, so it's might be true what I'm saying, might not. Depends on who you're asking, I suppose. But from my experience, anyway, what I'm gonna tell you here seems to quite help a bit. Um, and it's related to EDC in the sense where sometimes customers will um, send a request in, and like the usual EDC stuff. Eventually, we always find out what it is in terms of EDC. Like if it's something that came back or comes back quite a few times, we know what it is. But sometimes we go through all these things and we think we know, and we find out, well, it's still not working. That it should work, but it's not. Everything we're doing seems quite normal, and the normal procedures we would always do, which they have been uh, shown to work at many places. But then a lot of the times, sometimes it just doesn't work. What you think works won't. And a lot of the times it's due to Windows misbehaving. Anybody that had any time at all with Windows would know that. Um, it just acts strangely sometimes. Um, so because of that, I mean, once we come across all the normal EDC troubleshooting and still nothing works, usually nowadays I don't waste too much time with that. It's like my first step, basically. It's just something to keep in mind. It's good for your own machine too, because my own machine does it sometimes too. Is to reboot the machine. I don't know how many times, and Jeff knows that too. We've discussed that quite a few times. Um, the reboot 101 trick kind of thing, It whenever you're not sure about something, just reboot the machine. You'll find that, in my case anyway, many, 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 many times. I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. Uh, a lot of times it was it was just a question of rebooting. There was actually nothing wrong with EDC. There was nothing wrong with anything on the machine except for the fact that Windows was tired, I suppose. It's just been up for too long. That guy needs to sleep too, I suppose, or rejuvenate in some kind of way. So just reboot the machine is the first thing you do when all else fails, kind of thing, in terms of EDC, and you're not sure and it doesn't seem to make sense. Just reboot the machine. You'll find that at least 50% of the times that will do the trick right there and then. So yeah, if there's one big advice is that one. Just reboot the machine. So many people don't reboot the machine. They leave those machines on for months, and depending on the kind of activity you got on it, sometimes it might be okay. And because all Windows are different, they don't have all the same patches and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean, one machine that would be the same exact operating system won't have the same problem as the other one next to it. Even if they all have the same stuff, everything can interfere. Software is installed on it, or bad hardware sometimes. Actually, talking about bad hardware, a few times, Joel gave me this utility once, uh, and I still use it today. Sometimes the machine will again act strangely. You still reboot, still doesn't work better. Something's wrong. Uh, and actually, it happened not long ago with one of our customers. Um things were behaving strangely. It so happened that the drive on which EDC was installed. There was a problem with the drive. It was either the drive or the hard disk controller. I'm not really sure. But there's this little neat utility you can use to test your drive speed. Um, if you go to, well, we have it on our FTP here. If you go to temp.docudatasoft.com/diskt.zip, you can download that. Now, if I download that to my desktop here, I'll just extract that just to show you how it works quickly. It's very handy how it works, and it's pretty fast. It's a very small utility, just 300K. It does an amazing job, I find. So when you want to find out how your disks are running, um, you have this the size of the test file here. I usually put 100 megabytes because that's plenty. And then in the user defined path, usually like if I want to test, for example, a specific disk in particular, like me, my Docudata is installed, for example, on my D drive. So I would go here, select my D drive. Well, in that case for me it's P, but okay, so I select that. Shows me my test path here. And I always test with the cache disabled so that it's basically going to show me the real performance without any caching or nothing. So this way you can really tell. And if I run that, it does a write test, a read test, and a random access test. So I'm going to run it on mine actually. My machine is pretty fast. But see, there's like, at least you can compare with your own machine to have a kind of an average. Like I remember when I did that test at my customer place there. See how my write here is like 64 megs per second? My customer was about 3 megs per second. And that was a server, so it's like 30 times slower than my own machine here. Me, I only have a little desktop machine. So sometimes it's pretty handy. Like, because exactly with that executable there, I was able to test on the server um, how their drive were doing, and that's actually with that little guy that I found out that they had a real disk writing problem. So, and that's free. This let's say you can't find it on our temp at some point, you can always just Google disk TT and you'll find it. Um, Other little things to check for. Um, I mean, if the hardware, I mean, if the disk is okay, you can also have a memory test. Uh, there's a bunch of them on the net, but the one I really use usually is that good old memtest 86. It's a program you can burn on the CD and boot your machine with that. Obviously, we can't do that remotely. There might be some other apps nowadays that you can install that will do the same job straight from Windows, but I don't really know. I mean, the one that's on the CD is kind of I wouldn't say it's better, but just the fact that you're not running Windows, it's really testing everything, all your memory, all of it, not just some part of it. So memory could be a problem. A lot of the times it happens, memory goes bad. Um, Also, you want to know sometimes how long the machine has been up for. Exactly for the first tip I gave about rebooting the machine. Sometimes you want to really test how long the machine's been up for. There's a little handy command for that. If you open the command prompt, there's this command called system info, like that. And if I press enter here, the computer goes about requesting a few things. But then if you go back up a bit, you'll find it tells you right here. Where is it on mine? See, system boot time. So it tells me last time it was rebooted for me, which is yesterday for me here, 4 o'clock. So with that command, you can find out if the system's been up for days and months, and then give some suggestions sometimes to reboot the machine. Because sometimes IT persons, by their own will, some of them believe that a server should always be up and running and never be rebooted. Uh, so sometimes it's, I mean, sometimes it's uh, still a good thing to point it out that it's been up, say, for 8 months, and that maybe a reboot might help. Um, Sometimes too with active web, people get problems with Java or the web in general or some plugins. A lot of times, if you want to troubleshoot something going wrong with active web, first thing you want to do is um, make sure you don't have any plugins that interfere with the application. So, because a lot of people install tons of plugins in their browser, so if they could start their browser in safe mode, and then recheck, sometimes it's a good thing to do. Or sometimes you can just disable them temporarily, your plugins, and do it that way. I think safe mode is faster. Um, in really rare occasions, I've seen where, again, um, some customers having a real hard time accessing active web, or they have really weird errors. And a lot of them too, sometimes they're stuck with a certain version of IE. They can't update for any reason or a bunch of stuff. Um, but it happened in one of the cases where, after troubleshooting everything that I could think of, um, we really thought the problem was on the customer end, except that at the end of the day, we ended up kind of updating Java on the server and reinstalling Tomcat from scratch to the latest version, and their problem went away. So, but that's very rare. I mean, most of the time, when Java and Tomcat works for some customers, it works for everybody. But at the last resort, you might have to try to update the active web server basically to the latest Tomcat and Java. That might help. And then that's about. I mean, I could give tons of other tips, but there's no point really going into all that now. These I think are the most commons. And this was supposed to be a short video. I've already talked way too long. But yeah, that's about it. Nikolai here too at Docky Depot has a lot of um, information about troubleshooting. He's a good IT guy, so if I'm not around, you can always ask him. Um, and that's about it. All right, guys, have a good one.